Right now at 6, a Where's the Money investigation into what some call policing for profit. Law enforcement agencies in North Carolina have received nearly $300 million over the last 2 decades by partnering with the feds to seize people's money. But they regularly do so without ever charging those people with any crimes. Thanks so much for joining us for the news at 6. I'm Vanessa Rufus. Last night at 11, you'll remember our Nate Morabito told us about a sexual abuse case in Mint Hill where the feds and the town's police quietly kept $69,000 in seized cash. The victim, who was court ordered to get that money, hasn't seen a dime. Now, this practice of keeping seized money has been considered controversial for years, but new bipartisan legislation moving through Congress would end it. And the bill's sponsor says the Mint Hill case proves why the current law needs to change. He sat down with our Nate Morabito to talk about it tonight.
The legislation would end the equitable sharing program, which Mint Hill police used to quietly collect tens of thousands of dollars from a sex abuser 3 years before his criminal case even went to court. Money his victim cannot now receive as compensation for her pain and suffering.
It just feels like 3 steps back.
This 17-year-old's family says a Mint Hill police officer assured them.
We were always under the impression that it was always there.
The $69,000 in suspected drug money investigators found inside her abuser's home would still be available when they were ready to sue him.
If she was led to believe that, I get it. I get she's frustrated.
They only recently learned the money was long gone by the time they filed their civil lawsuit.
This is completely unjust.
Without them knowing, the police department partnered with a federal agency through the Equitable Sharing Program and received $45,000 of the cash to buy generators. The federal government took the rest of the money, and it's all legal for now.
Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should do it.
When you hear a case like this, how does it make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel more resolved to get this legislation passed.
Michigan Congressman Tim Walberg is leading a bipartisan effort to reform civil asset forfeiture, so police are forced to always act in the public's best interest.
At least the thought can come in people's minds. They changed their approach and they rushed it more quickly in order to get that $69,000.
The lawmaker says his FAIR Act would still allow police to work with federal agencies for justified seizures, but would prevent local police departments from collecting any of the assets, eliminating the incentive. It would also shift the burden away from property owners.
They'd have the opportunity for representation in the court of law
and create a higher standard of proof to protect the people whose money or property investigators seized.
They would not be forced to prove themselves innocent, but rather the state, the law enforcement, would have to prove them guilty.
Civil forfeiture is an absolute outrage. It's inherently abusive.
Institute for Justice senior attorney Dan Elbin says it's long past time Congress acts to protect people's constitutional rights, especially since so many states, including North Carolina, have created stringent asset forfeiture laws.
The equitable sharing program simply allows local and state law enforcement officials to evade state law.
He cites his own group's research showing when police seize money under the premise they're disrupting criminal activity, forfeiture proceeds don't help them solve more crimes or reduce drug use.
Is equitable sharing fair?
I believe equitable sharing is fair.
Mint Hill Police Department attorney Scott McAlatchy supports the program as it stands and stands behind the decisions in this case.
I am at peace that we followed the law.
Annual reports show Mint Hill Police routinely partner with the feds, receiving nearly $900,000 in equitable sharing funds since 2018.
If Congress changes the law, then we will certainly respect the law, whatever that is.
It's just hard to move on.
The victim's mother believes the $69,000 police seized should go to her daughter.
No amount of money will ever make my daughter whole.
She even secured a state judge's order saying the teen has a right to stake her claim. But Mint Hill maintains that court order has no authority, all because the money went through the federal equitable sharing program 3 years prior. Congressman Walberg told me he expects the House to vote on his bill in the coming weeks, likely later this month. The House Judiciary Committee unanimously approved the legislation back in June. In Mint Hill, Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
And Nate and our Where's the Money team work hard to hold our government and law enforcement accountable. Your tax dollars pay for these agencies, so part of our job is making sure that they are doing theirs and doing right by the community. So with that said, we want to put this call to action out there. If you have something our team should investigate, please let us know. A lot of our story ideas come from you at home. You can send an email to money@wcnc.com.